Hello, fifth grade. Today I want to talk to you about cubes. Now, last week we started talking about three-dimensional figures, and some of you actually built cubes from nets. And if you recall, a cube is made up of 6 faces, with each face being a square. And sometimes they're drawn like this. You can kind of see that there's some dimension to it. Now, some of you found examples of cubes around your house and included them in your PowerPoint. And when I look around my house, the thing that I always think about when it comes to cubes are dice. A dice is a three-dimensional figure, and it has 6 square faces, and that's what makes it a cube. So right now I'd like you to pause this video and collect any cubes you might have in your house, especially if they're the same size. So you could have dice, you could have linker cubes that you build things with. Those are probably the 2 most common things. So take a pause, go collect some of those things, and then come back. Okay, so we are going to measure today using cubes. Now, when you see this one cube, we're going to call this a cubic unit. So we're taking the word cube and we're altering it somewhat to call it a cubic unit. Okay? Now, we know that cubes are three-dimensional objects, so the unit of measure when we're measuring in cubic units will be the unit of measure raised to the 3rd power. And that 3rd power indicates that it is a three-dimensional figure. So if I have one die, I should say, we could call that 1 unit cubed, or by using the exponent of 3, or we could use the abbreviation CU to indicate cubic unit. So what if we put 2 of these dice together? Well, now we would have 2 cubic units, or we could say 2 units cubed. Let me move that a little so you can see it better. Okay? All right, so how many cubes do you see now? Well, hopefully you could see that there are 4 cubes in this direction. There are 2 cubes in this direction, and they're stacked one high. So we would call this a 4 by 2 by 1 arrangement. And when you multiply 4 times 2 times 1, you get 8. 8 cubic units is what we call volume of this, what would be a prism if we were to put it all together. Volume. Volume is what we're talking about. Volume is the measurement of the amount of space a solid figure occupies, and it's measured in cubic units. What's the volume of this arrangement of cubes? Well, it might be a little bit hard to see, but you can see it looks at this top layer looks a lot like what we just did. We have this length here. This length is 4 cubes. This depth here is 2 cubes. But now we have a stack of them, and we have 2 stacks, which hopefully you can see on this back side, and you can tell because of the numbers on the cubes, the number of dots. So we have 2 like layers of cubes that fit on top of each other. So we would probably call that the height of this arrangement. And so now we have a 4 by 2 by 2 arrangement. And if you multiply 4 times 2 times 2, you get 16. So we would call the volume of this arrangement 16 cubic units. Again, I keep going off the page here. Sorry about that. So you might notice that this arrangement we have made with a length of 4 here, a width of 2, and a height of 2, together form a rectangular prism. So we can find the volume of rectangular prisms by counting the cubes. And a shortcut would be to find a layer of cubes and then multiply it by the number of layers. So this layer has 8 cubes, and there are 2 layers that are stacked on top of each other. And so we would take the 8 cubes on each layer times the number of layers, which is 2, to get our total volume of 16 cubic units. So let's look at some problems that are on the IXL you're going to work on. Here's an example of a rectangular prism made up of cubic units. So you might notice that this length right here is 4 units. This width is just 1 unit wide. So how many are on the bottom layer? Well, it's 4 by 1, which would give you 4. But we have a height here of 2, which means we have 2 layers of 4, which would give us 8 units. And we want to remember that these are cubed units, so even though you don't have to write the unit of measure on IXL, it is provided for you. Okay, so you have an assignment in your book and some IXL practice. Give it a try. Talk to you later. Bye.